So what drew you to the play in the first place?
What drew me? I have no idea. I didn't have any idea what the play was about at first. I hadn't heard of it. All I knew is that it was a title that brought an audience in, so I thought, oh, it must be good. So I watched the film. It was like the film with Julie and Michael. Listened to some radio plays, and I just thought it was a beautiful story that was still relevant to this day, and I just had to be a part of it.
Yes. What drew me to the play? Well, first thing is right for the character. I'm the right age, but I'm not a university professor. A lecturer. This is just. I'm going to not copying what Billy said. It's just a lovely story. It's a really human story. It's quite real, and there's a lot of truth in it, and it's just a lovely story to be able to portray for people, for an audience, and include them in it.
And how would you describe your character for me?
So Rita, or Susan, is a very young married hairdresser in early 80s Liverpool. She is what they call working class. She just has this desire to be like refined and an educated human being. So she's driven, she's committed, she's not afraid to stand out, or she's not willing to compromise for anything that she wants, to an extent. I think she's awesome.
She's awesome. Yeah, Frank is a functional alcoholic, underachiever, self-destructive. He's got so much going for him, doesn't seem to appreciate it, and well, it's just an enigma. I mean, I don't know quite. It doesn't show us in the play how he gets like he is. Would that be an interesting story in itself? But yeah, it's just a basket case, frankly. But he has knowledge, and he's willing to share that with this delightful Rita that walks into his life 20 years too late.
I think the contrast between the two is interesting, because it's almost like Frank is almost 100% a representation of wasted potential, and Rita is someone who could follow that line, but ends up really just exploring that potential. I think that's quite interesting about it. I think it's that flip between the two. We'll go back. How would you sum up the play in a few sentences to someone who's never heard of it before?
How do I describe it to the people at work that also have no idea what this is? A Scouse working lass goes to Open University and is just taught by this down hard on his luck tutor. And you just see how they reform each other and change their lives in just such this small amount of time, when it's in one classroom throughout the whole thing, and just to see it develop is wonderful.
Yes, it's all about the relationship between two unlikely people who would never have met had it not been for this Open University course, and how this sort of opens a window on each the other's lives, and what's possible, what they can achieve, their potential. Looking through a lens at another person's life in a way they hadn't done before, in a very intimate and expensive, detailed way.
Lovely. Have you learned anything about yourself, or about the play, or about anything during rehearsals?
A lot of poetry. A lot of poetry and literature, and just life in general. In the 80s, after rehearsals, you were saying about memories, see, when you were growing up, and the rain as well. Just hearing all these things about the culture that you experience is something that I never would or hadn't done, so that's interesting. I've liked listening to the music that probably Rita would have been singing along to and bopping along while she's like washing up. Or
Kim Wilde.
Yeah, exactly. Going, how does this artist make Rita tick? And just finding that out. That's been really fun to do.
What's the question?
What have you learned? Or have you learned anything?
No, it's just nice to explore in different emotions and the situations in the play that you might not have done before, and try and put yourselves in that position. Oh, what would do? And what would Frank do? And what's Rita thinking? And why is she doing that? It's quite different from anything I've done before. And they're just two people in the whole thing.
I think that gives a level of precision to things, doesn't
Yes,
it? And much more
it does.
reflection to it.
It's just quite an interesting story. It's a story about real people.
So what should people look out for in the production that maybe might be sort of a bit hidden somewhere, or something that we've thrown in that maybe might not be
say
too obvious?
every prop or costume or mannerism that we do is in there for a reason. It's not we've thrown it in because there is meaning behind it. And if you look into it, you can come up with all different ideas about the play and make your own interpretation as the story goes along, which I think is really cool.
And my favourite bit is the handbag.
Handbag.
We don't actually say it. We just sort of nod to it.
Yeah.
And you might spot that.
Is it sort of an in joke for theatre people, isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah.
I still don't get it.
Have there been that's going in. Has there been any challenges playing the role?
A 90-minute play with just two people. I've never done this before. It's heavy. It's not just the lines and the amount that you're counting, Steve. It's the nature of it as well. Like I said, I'm learning a lot about poetry, and I talk about poetry in Act 2 because Rita understands. So it's challenging for me to portray it like I understand, because I'm thinking I don't know why this is 19th century. I don't get that. So that's been challenging, but also rewarding. And yeah.
The first studio I worked in, drama studio I worked in, my boss had on the wall, I think it was a quote from Antonin Artaud, which was, "An actor is a heart athlete." And I've definitely, at every rehearsal, I've watched you have a bloody good workout, and you've given it to the rest of us as well. Steve?
Yeah, I can't remember the question.
What's been the challenges?
Challenge. Well, for me, technically, it's being a drunk person, which I don't do particularly well. That's the biggest challenge thing that concerns me the most, and trying to put that across sensibly
without going too broad with it.
Yes,
yeah,
indeed. And body's half cut all the time, Frank. So it's just slightly more of a yes. That's the biggest challenge.
So, how's it been working together?
Love it. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure working against you.
You weren't going to say anything else.
But it's not just you, there's Steve and Lorraine and Luke as well. It's just this support, and I will quote the play. I can get through the rest of the week knowing I've got this to look forward to.
I felt that. I felt that way as well. I've said that many times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the thing I like the most is the chats we have about it, because it's just a small cast. You can't get smaller than two. Yeah. Well, you can have one, that's right. But there's time, which you don't get in a lot of productions. I mean, there's a bigger cast, and it takes a long time to sort out.
And it can feel like a production line sometimes, can't it? It can feel sometimes when you're working in a massive ensemble. Mm-hmm. It's very different from that ability to just sort of lean back and kind of go, why? And to talk that out with the rest of the people in the room.
No, I've got those conversations. It's very, very intimate. It's very much a collaboration.
Brilliant. Has your co-star surprised you with any of their choices?
Oh wait, no. I was a bit baffled by this question. It's like, what choice? He's chose to be here. I'm not surprised.
No, I mean in terms of their performance choices. Have they done anything that you've kind of like gone, not in a good way or a bad way, and it could be things that we've dropped or that we've kept in or anything like that.
Right, got ya. Can't quote on anything that we've dropped or kept in that I'm surprised about, because when, as you know, with the chats and stuff we have, it makes sense why you would want us to stand a certain way or sit somewhere. But Steve, you always surprise me. I mean, I've been with Centre Stage with you for years now, like plays and the Shakespeare musicals and stuff. But every time you still surprise me, like in Act 2 doing that just now, they're like, oh wow. Oh, you got me, you got my heartstrings.
Yeah. No, it's been really fun working on set. opposite Billy. Have I been surprised? I'd say no, but that's because I keep an open mind. And
so you have no preconceptions.
I'm not expecting a particular way of delivery line or a way of anything like that at all. I'll just react to it or try to.
Yeah, well, we'll move on to the next bit then, which might sort of pad that out a bit. How would you describe your co-star's interpretation of the character?
I don't know, I think it's delightful.
It is, isn't it?
It is.
Absolutely delightful.
It's just, I've not seen anyone else. I did see the film years ago, but I can't remember it. But I think better than Julie Walters. Just more intimate. And I know filming is fine, you can get like close angles and bits and pieces. But I think you've nailed Rita.
There's such a sweetness and lightness to it, isn't there?
Yes.
But still that rod of iron in the back. That feels genuinely Scouse to me.
Yes, when it comes through with the writing and the
yeah.
performance as well.
But she seems to sort of just delicately dance through the whole thing. Yes. It just seems effort. I know she's putting in a hell of a lot of work behind the scenes, but
it's just a delight. Well, Rita's a delightful person. And sort of lights Frank's life up for a short time. It's just cracking.
Aww, shucks, you guys. Thanks. Well, you've done a wonderful job with Frank, and you've been open and honest about the one challenge you have defines his character to an extent.
Yes.
But you have done incredibly well with that, and you're amending it each rehearsal to try and find not necessarily what fits Frank, but what fits you and what I think you're comfortable with. But you are getting there. I wrote down some more things. What did I say? On the third paragraph. No, so the whole concept of Frank is that you just said Rita is like this breath of fresh air. So you have contrasted that really well from before meeting her and then Act 2 when she's not needing Frank as much. That's wonderful to see. That's like perfect.
I mean, one of the things I've enjoyed about your interpretations is that both of you are, we spend a lot of time blocking it, but both of you are very adept at almost not making it look like we've done any blocking. No, in a good way, because even when you're doing exactly the things that we've blocked, you find ways of making it look genuine and natural, and the relationship between the two characters, I think, has developed throughout the rehearsal process, and that's the bit I've really enjoyed watching. The fact that the two of them do obviously, definitely by the end, care so deeply for each other, and it's so believable in the way you've put it across. And that's how come, as we've said before, that's how come they can hurt each other so easily and so quickly and so readily, because they know that other person inside out, backwards and upside down, even from just like this one meeting a week for a few months. They just feel so, the way you bounce off each other just feels so natural to me, and it's just a joy. Right, moving on to broader stuff. Are there any roles that you would love to play in the future?
Can we do Stags and Hens now? I've got a Willie Russell vibe going now. I've read it all. Carol sounds really fun.
I've had a couple of people ask me about Stags and Hens.
Have you?
Luke's been in it with me. I've directed it before. Luke was one of the major guys. I mean, Steve, you've surely played everything by now that you want to.
Well, I can't think. There's nothing on my list. I'll just be surprised and see what comes up. See what comes along.
What role was on your list before you started doing all this?
It's not good to have dreams, because when they come true, they're never quite what you imagine they would be, in my experience. So I just happy whatever comes along.
Fair enough.
Wow, that was profound.
Yeah. That's Frank right there, isn't it?
Yeah. Have you played anything? I know you were saying earlier that you've not. This is sort of a very different thing to anything you've done before. Is there anything that is even closely connected to it? Anything that you'd say was similar to it? Yeah.
When you think of sort of self-destructive characters, I think Richard III. That's quite different, and the way we did it as well.
No, but they're both tragic characters, aren't they?
Yes.
They really are.
Yes, they are.
So I can see that, yeah.
That's the closest I can get to. I'm really enjoying this one.
So, last one. How do you feel about the pop-up format, the way we do these plays now?
Okay, it's great. I really do like it. For anyone that's wanting to do it, it's cheaper if you get the floor. But I think for this play, it's perfect. I think if me and Steve were up on that stage with a big set, we would have been lost. So the pop-up element makes the audience involved and encapsulated by it almost, at least, which just gives that different kind of relationship with the actors and the audience. You can really feel it and be surrounded in it, rather than just, I'm going to sit in a chair how many yards away and watch.
I adore the format.
Well, you're back for a second year, aren't you?
Yeah, I really, really do love it. It's so intimate, and well, hopefully that proximity of the audience helps you to sort of transport them into this world, just forget themselves for this hour and a half, however long it is, and get totally absorbed in this relationship, which is very real, and just go and be swept along with it and feel their pain, feel their joy, feel their sorrow. Yeah.
There isn't as much of a disconnect, is there, between the audience and the and the performance? It's like the fourth wall is like gossamer thin, isn't it, in a thing like this? And it's. Do you think it affects your performance at all, knowing that you're going to be so close to the audience?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things, if you know, when you're out in public and someone says, "Oh, you're so brave for standing up there on stage and singing," I go, "I can't see you. I'm blinded by light." So yeah, this is going to be, apart from the Shakespeare's, my first pop-up inside, away from the rain and the wind and things. So.
In a sports hall or a pub's randomly, you know.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, definitely.
Well, I did it last year. I loved it. And it was just so close. As no one starts heckling. I'll feel alright. Yeah. But it's just there. So yeah.
And I think it gives you an opportunity to be smaller and more subtle with some of the things you do as well. Because you're not
theatrical. Just a little.
For the record, Steve looked around and put his hands on the table dramatically. It's like we said before, it's much closer to film and TV acting than your traditional theatre stuff.
Yeah.
No, I think the audience will feel the wall.
Yeah.
The characters as well. And the shiny, happy feeling.
Yeah. A slight eye movement when you're this close to the audience. Yeah. The back row sees it, whereas the front row barely sees it when when the orchestra pit's between you and the front row. The back row is going to be about as close as that to start with.